Welcome to another edition of the Local Government Today program we started just after the first of the year. We are glad that you are along with us. We have local government officials from mayors and county commissioners, and today we are lucky to have the sheriff of St. Clair County, Matt King. Welcome back to CTV and welcome back to our new set.
Well, thank you for having me. The new set looks great. It's good to be here.
Thank you, sir. Every year, you come up with facts and figures about what the very important drug task force did from the previous year, and you've got those new records for us. So I thought I'd get you to come in here and talk about that. Let's get started. Tell me about the drug task force.
So the drug task force is a multi-jurisdictional agency that is funded through a millage, greatly supported by the citizens of St. Clair County, and we have different officers and agents from different agencies throughout the county, both local and federal. And it's a great teamwork effort done by all types of different agencies to combat the drug problem here in St. Clair County.
Continual problem, started obviously numbers of years ago. You recently, a couple of years ago, had a millage request that was passed. That helped.
Yes, it was the first time we asked for an increase in the millage, and we're able to nearly double the size of our drug task force. So we had some new problems occur here, locally as well as nationally, and of course anything that happens nationally usually trickles down to the local level. And we had new challenges along with the old challenges that we've always dealt with. So we saw the need. The population had risen a little since the original request for the millage. It's been greatly supported through the years, and we're able to enlarge the size of our drug task force so we can focus on different investigations all at the same time.
You brought along a PowerPoint, and if Sam will throw up the first couple slides there, we'll go through it here and talk about that's what you were referring to, the different agencies.
Yeah, so the drug task force is run by the sheriff's office, but we also have two officers from the Port Huron Police Department, one officer from the Clair Township Police Department, and then our partners on the federal level as well, who help perpetuate these investigations outside the borders of just St. Clair County. Obviously, we're a border community, so it made sense to get our federal partners on board as well.
So these guys are working 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Yes, you know, they're on call constantly. They work informants and information constantly. My time out of the drug task force, I remember the phone's never off and the calls always come in. So they work very hard.
The next slide, I think, talks about, no, go ahead, you talk.
Yeah, it's, you know, I kind of outlined it earlier, the multi-jurisdictional agency with the,
keep clicking there, Sam. There
you go. You know, officers, a lieutenant and sergeants and deputies from the Sheriff's Department, two officers from the Port Huron Police Department, an officer from Clair Township Police Department, and then again our federal partners. You know, it's important for us to have all those partnerships because they bring different information from different parts of our county. You know, we're able to get informants from the south end of the county, and informants from the city of Port Huron, and of course all the way out to
just not a
K-Pac and Yale and Memphis.
One town problem.
No, it's a whole county problem.
Right.
It is, absolutely.
Okay, and next. Okay.
You know, we focus at the Drug Task Force with trying to combat the dealers, the drug dealers. We know that there are a lot of addicted people in our county, as there is anywhere else, and obviously oftentimes they commit crimes as well, but our focus is to stop the drug dealers that are bringing and pushing these very addictive, dangerous drugs to our community. So that's where our focus really is.
Okay.
You know, we at the Sheriff's Office and all law enforcement had our challenges with COVID-19, and our drug task force was no different. So some of our numbers are a little bit lower. We're actually, some were higher, but we had to shift our focus on picking when it made sense to focus on different investigations for the safety of our officers and of the public. So we concentrated on more long-term investigations and didn't want to expose our deputies and the public unduly to COVID-19, especially early on when we didn't know much about it. So we shifted how we did things for the year, and you know, we've closed out some big investigations that were great, but some of our numbers were a little bit lower, but we just had to pick and choose and prioritize this year.
So that slide shows the information received and the criminal complaints generated from it?
Yeah, so information received could be tips from calls from complainants or people out in the community just giving tips of, hey.
I think there's something going on in my neighbor's house kind of call.
Absolutely. A lot of cars, different cars coming, going, traffic, people going into a house for a short period of time and leaving, people meeting at the corner store. It seems out of the ordinary. So those are the kind of tips, and then the complaints show where we're able to make a criminal complaint and do the investigation.
So not all drug crimes are felonies. Some are misdemeanors, some are felonies?
Yeah, so we again, we're always focusing on the felonies because those are usually the dealers, the drug dealers. But there's other crimes that go along with operating a drug house, for instance, is a misdemeanor. Possession can be a misdemeanor as well. So we focus on the felony charges, but there's plenty of misdemeanor charges as well. And as you can see there was more felony charges.
One other time I interviewed you, or the previous sheriff, it was enlightening to hear you guys say, we like to stop people on traffic stops. It's safer for the officers.
Yes, and that's really been a trend, at least the last 5 to 6 years. You know, we can control what's going on more when we're culminating that investigation in a traffic stop, and later maybe going in doing a search warrant to search for more evidence in a house.
After the fact.
Yes.
After you get the person.
Yes. You go into a house, you don't know who's in there. You don't have control over the situation. So traffic stops are the preferred way of apprehending a suspected drug dealer, and then grow our investigation from there.
Because it's pretty dangerous work the officers are doing.
Yeah, some of the most dangerous work we can do is undercover narcotics investigations and then the execution of search warrants on residences.
Okay.
And it's safer for everybody if we can take this suspect down on the street, for sure. So.
Let's see what the next slide is.
So this slide here represents some of the unique challenges we have in St. Clair County with 110 miles of international border and being within 50 to 60 miles of 2 major cities. So we're a city where drugs funnel in and through into Canada, and money would funnel through from Canada down to other hub cities. We have 2 major highways, I-94 and I-69, that end or begin here depending on how you look at it. And that's a natural way to travel to get through the second busiest port as far as vehicular traffic in the nation. So it's very unique here in St. Clair County, what comes into our county and what goes through it. And we have to stay on top of that. So, and part of that is obviously trying to make sure we're up with the drug trends. You know, I talked earlier about our drug task force millage enabling us to grow as a task force as far as the amount of members in the task force, because we had some new challenges, and that was the opioid epidemic. We saw the growth of use of opioid painkillers. Oftentimes people became addicted to these even though if they're prescribed to begin with because of an injury, and then it turned into the heroin epidemic. And right at the coattails of that was the methamphetamine problem. It began with a lot of meth labs, and we saw a lot of methamphetamine labs, and now all of a sudden our deputies had to not just know how to do investigations, but now they became semi-chemists and had to be able to take apart these labs. And
they were pretty dangerous.
Very dangerous. They explosions and fires and burns and chemical inhalation. So we had to create a team of meth responders within the drug task force and our special response team to be able to execute the search warrants and special gear and then dissect these labs. So the need continued to grow because we still were dealing with other hallucinogenics, powder cocaine, crack cocaine, acid, things like that. So it wasn't a 1-for-1, it was a 1 + 1 + 2. Right. So we needed the growth of the drug task force. And eventually methamphetamine turned from the labs to the large amount of crystal meth that was manufactured mostly in Mexico because of their lack of restraint on ephedrine, which is a needed chemical to make methamphetamine. And now we see large amounts of methamphetamine brought in this county. And it's not so many labs, but the meth addiction is huge in St. Clair County right now.
So we got meth going, but also people's prescription drugs are a problem too.
Absolutely. You know, prescription drugs oftentimes are, well, I would say almost always prescribed properly, but we as a community, including the medical community, have learned a lot about how that contributed to the opioid epidemic. there's a lot more restraint with the prescriptions that are given by doctors. And you know, we know that people become addicted to these pills, and once they can't get them, they start buying them on the street.
Yeah, yeah.
And it can be very expensive, and all of a sudden a lot of the addicted people found that heroin, being the same derivative being opium or opioid substance in there, was cheaper to find, or correction, buy heroin on the street than actually buy the pills.
Oh my God. So
then the heroin problem exploded here.
Yeah.
And then we all know the overdose problems with heroin can cause death very quickly. So it rolled out from the prescription drugs onto the heroin, and then fentanyl and carfentanil and all these other substances that were so much stronger. So, you know, we have a great partnership with the medical field and the DEA, and we found that first of all we needed to educate the medical field and the public about these painkillers and how they're to be taken very seriously. And we're able to get the word out to people out in the public that maybe prescribe these pills properly and then realize, okay, I don't need these anymore. What do I need to do? I need to get rid of them so they don't get in the wrong hands. And we take back a large amount of prescription pills from our community through the program, and then we're able to get in the DEA so they can properly dispose of them.
Even in municipalities now, I see, like the city of St. Clair, they now have a place where people can drop off drugs that are no longer in use.
Absolutely, yeah.
Prescription drugs. So
it's so important to get any unused prescription drugs off the street. Yes, it served its purpose. Let's get it off the street before it's a harm to somebody. So that's a great program that we have going, and we've had going for some time. And you know, we're still dealing with cocaine and crack cocaine. That was the main problem that brought about the Drug Task Force millage, but the problem continued to grow, and we still see cocaine and crack cocaine. It's not gone away, and like I said, it's been added to with these new drug problems. You know, heroin's been around for a very long time, but it was gone for a very long time. And I remember working as a deputy out of the Drug Task Force, saying, "Hey, I've got a heroin buy," and the other deputies.
Pretty unique.
It was unique at the time, and you know, it's funny to live through a time of you know, history-making situation and not know what you're actually witnessing until you look back and say, wow, it rolled out right in front of our eyes, this opioid problem. So, you know, the Drug Task Force, we try to battle these drugs because they are harming, you know, our community. We have a lot of overdose deaths in our community and everywhere. We have a great naloxone program out now, which is the Narcan. Our EMS, local EMS, are using it very often. Our deputies and officers throughout the county are using Narcan pretty regularly on overdose calls. And then, of course, our Drug Task Force members keep it on them for their own safety, and you never know what you're going to come across. So, you know, it's a multi-faceted attack on the drug problem, and the Drug Task Force has the task of trying to stop the drug dealers from getting these drugs out on the street.
Because people are dying.
They are dying at an alarming rate, yes. And I think something like 90% of the drug overdose deaths are connected to opioids. So,
wow.
Because it's that drug that can, anytime you take it, could be the one that kills you, especially when you talk about heroin, it could be laced with fentanyl or carfentanil, and you're taking a dose that's way stronger than you thought it was.
And it touches everybody, from TV stars and Hollywood stars down to the poor guy on the street.
Absolutely.
It takes all sorts of prisoners.
It does. It does. Like I said, oftentimes the addiction starts with a properly prescribed medicine because of an injury. And that's very unique to most of the other what we call hard drugs on the street. You know, people who try hard drugs are often taking the risk and trying the drug. A lot of the addicted people to opioids started out taking a drug that was prescribed to them.
You had a slide up there of where the incidents happen, and they happen all over the county, don't they?
They do. They happen all over the county, and there's a map on our website. You can go to our Facebook website and click on the map, and it'll tell you the address and what kind of drug activity took place there as far as the investigations we do at the Drug Task Force. So it'll kind of give you a picture of how widespread the problem really is.
Okay. And that's the big question. How can we help?
How can we help is always the question. We have a very supportive community. We're very fortunate that way. If you see activity, we talked earlier about those tips, They're very, very important. That one tip of what is suspected drug activity could be the one extra line we need for a search warrant to be able to finish a complaint, or it could be the very first line that put us onto a problem in our neighborhood. Law enforcement in general, we're only as good as our communication with the public. If you can contact the Drug Task Force at 1-800-DRUG, you can give us information. I'm sorry, 1-800-243-DRUG. You can give us information if you see information. And you can be anonymous. Almost everybody's anonymous. And we've had a working database that's worked out at the Drug Task Force, totally separated from all other law enforcement. Your information will be kept very secret, and it can help us start and/or end a drug investigation.
How about the courts? Are they been cooperative with you? Are they helpful to you?
Absolutely. You know, it's a unique and great relationship we have with the prosecutor's office. You know, the Drug Task Force millage does pay for a prosecutor assigned right to the Drug Task Force. It has made sure that we get it right the first time. We have that direct line with a prosecutor who knows the laws and knows how to work the court system in a proper way. They look over our search warrant. They guide us in our investigations. And it's very important for us to make sure we're doing these very important drug investigations properly from the start all the way to the finish.
I always try and stress that it's not wrong to talk to a police officer. It's not wrong to call and say, hey, something's going on. I don't know what it is, but I thought I better talk to somebody about it.
Yeah, you know, it is important to remember we're here to help.
Yeah.
We live in this community. We have families in this community. We want this community to be as healthy and a good a place to live as possible. Our part is obviously investigations and public safety. Public's part is to help us do our job. Give us information. You know, we promise we'll do the right thing with it. And if you give us information that you suspect there's drug activity and it turns out there isn't, then there isn't. That's fine. We'd rather have too much information and fish through it than be a law enforcement agency that doesn't get the word.
Right.
So communication is key with our public for sure.
What's coming up? You got big summer activity. Hopefully the COVID will be waning here a little bit. You know, there's always stuff going on for the department.
Yes, there's always stuff going on. We have a lot of projects going on. What's coming up, you know, like you said, COVID is kind of dictating what will be going on in the public. In the meanwhile, the sheriff's office, we have many projects underway with the camera program. We're trying to get the camera switched over in our jail for safety purposes for the inmates and the corrections deputies in the jail. You know, we're working on body-worn cameras for the sheriff's deputies throughout the jail, which is a big project. We've had great cooperation.
A lot of money, though.
It is. It is.
The public likes them, but they don't realize what the budget and the cost is.
Yes, and it's the legacy cost that gets us, storing the data. And when that data is FOIA'd, we have to properly secure the data and not give out videos where people who aren't involved in a specific incident are on the video. We have to blur that image out. It's very intense as far as man hours.
How long do you have to maintain the archives of video?
To be honest with you, it depends on the situation.
Okay.
Yeah, it really does. And we have a standard procedure we're working on to make sure it's done properly. And again, we talk to our corporate counsel and the prosecutor's office to make sure everything's done properly. So.
I mean, no, when we started here at CTV a number of years ago, we were using just VHS tapes and we had no budget, so we had to keep recording over the top of them.
Yep.
Because of budgetary reasons. Now,
that's exactly how we started.
We don't archive a lot of stuff here,
yeah.
but
we had the same thing with our in-car cameras.
Yeah.
I remember we would store them for a certain amount of time, and then we'd run them through an eraser and reuse those small VHS basically recording devices. But
public wants all the latest and the greatest, but then somebody's got to pay for it.
Yes, it's expensive. It is, and we've had great cooperation with our county board, which is important. They realize the importance of this technology.
Yeah.
It's it's demanded by the public now.
That's right.
And it's a great tool. And it's a great tool for law enforcement because it really can showcase the job we're doing on a day-to-day.
You alluded to COVID. I heard you on Paul Miller the other morning talking about the people at the jail,
yes.
The officers at the jail, and COVID. How has that affected the?
Well, you know, I was given a great opportunity to talk about some of the people in our department that we don't hear much about. You know, they do a great job day in and day out. People don't talk about the corrections deputies because they don't see them for the most part. And they're given a task of making sure the best care and you know, is given to the inmates in a safe, legal manner. And then, of course, COVID comes, and it was a total and complete blindside as to, while we've got 500 people in our jail, we have to make sure are safe, they don't get sick. If they do get sick, what do we do? The population's down for various reasons, but we came up with different protocols and ways to handle people coming into the jail, all get tested. If there's somebody that tests positive, we have to quarantine them and then test everybody else that's been around them. It is quite a complex procedure that the sheriff's deputies do in the jail. And you know, they've answered the call. You know, in our profession, so many people work from home. In our profession, we can't. And most certainly, the deputies in the jail, they have not been able to change a whole lot other than protocols to make sure it's done safely. They have to come to work. And they're coming to work to a population that right now it's very, very low. I think we have 2 people with COVID in the jail, which is phenomenal. And I would say 80% of the people who have tested positive in the jail are asymptomatic. You know. And we haven't had anybody get too sick with the COVID, but we still have to treat it as a very serious virus. And the deputies, they just don't skip a beat. They come into work every day. They don't complain.
That's wonderful.
It is, and I'm lucky to have a workforce of people who know the task at hand and are ready to meet the new challenge, and they've done a terrific job with it.
Oh, we salute them.
So, yeah.
Have we missed anything?
Oh, we could go on and on. There's a lot of different divisions at the sheriff's office. We'll be dealing with high waters this summer with our Marine division, and that'll be a challenge. Of course, our dive team are connected to the Marine division. So when the ice starts breaking up and then clogging up again like it did in Algonac, we'll have to keep an eye on that. And then, of course, just our day-to-day calls. We'll see if there's going to be festivals like there usually are here in St. Clair County. Obviously, last summer there weren't. Obviously, some will be missed, but we'll see if towards the middle of the end things start to open back up. So, you know, it's been a unique year for everyone, and in law enforcement, it's the same. It's been unique, and again, we still have to go to work every day in that uniform and make contact with people, and our deputies have just done a terrific job of staying the course and working through this.
Congratulations.
So, thank you.
Sheriff Matt King, our guest today on Local Government Today, and we thank him for stopping in and bringing us up to date on the very important drug task force numbers for 2020. And as we said during the interview, don't ever be afraid to pick up the phone or stop a deputy along the way and say, hey, I think this over here, or I think that over there, because it helps them in their total daily project. Till next time, I'm Paul Dingeman. See you soon. Thanks for watching.